In this episode, we get lost on a desert island. The car dictates an emergency stop, and I come face to face with the biggest crocodile ever to have lived in the world. After leaving Airlie Beach, we rolled into Yeppoon on the coast just north of Rockhampton. And here we are in Yeppoon. We've been here a couple of days now. We drove down from Airlie Beach, and I've got to be honest, we were quite sad to leave there, but Yeppoon has a charm all of its own. We've been here 2 days now and we've really enjoyed ourselves. It has a population of about 7,000, so it's not huge, but there's enough going on here. There are plenty of cafes and restaurants and bars and coffee houses. There's a Coles and a Woolworths, as well as an IGA, and there's a decent gym, which I'll talk about later. But no, it's very attractive. It sits on the coast here. We're just north of the mouth of the Fitzroy River, which is stated as being the southern limit of the range of the saltwater crocodile. So we're right at the southern edge of their territories here. And once we move on from here, then we're going to be leaving the salties behind. But Yeppoon, its name is derived from the local Aboriginal language, the Darumbal tribe, and their word Yappan, which means the meeting place of waters. And Yeppoon is kind of the gateway to the Keppel Islands that are strung out along the Capricorn Coast here, and in fact we're going to go and get a ferry to one of them tomorrow. We're going to have a look around there. So all in all, it's actually really quite an attractive place. We've certainly enjoyed just taking our time to just relax and catch our breath before moving on again. And the next day found us at Roslyn Harbour, waiting for our ferry to Great Keppel Island, known in the local dialect as Whopper. Roslyn Harbour, waiting for our fast cat. The setup was very relaxed, and the journey out to the island took only about 30 minutes, and on arrival the boat simply beaches itself on the sands. Okay, Sheila, Great Keppel Island.
Great Keppel Island, we've come for a day trip here and we've just picked up our snorkel equipment. Haven't snorkeled in a long time, which became immediately obvious when we were trying on the equipment. But it's a little bit windy and it's a little cold at the moment, so we're going to hopefully we'll find a more sheltered bay where it won't be too cold to snorkel. So looking forward to it.
But first,
coffee.
And then we were heading into the island along the various trails that are dotted around. But navigating soon became a bit of a challenge.
How are they doing on the signposting front?
They are diabolically awful. And nobody can find the way. We were just talking to another couple as well who looked just as lost as we were, and we said to them, do you know where we are? And they went, no, I haven't a clue. We went that way for a while, and then so anyway. However, we have now found a notice board with some fairly useless arrows, but it does have at the bottom the what three words reference, and so we're going to have a look and see if we can work out exactly where we are, and then hopefully we'll be a bit wiser as to which way to go next.
Eventually we found our bearings, and channeling our inner Bear Grylls, we eventually reached our snorkelling destination, Shelving Beach.
Actually, I turned around because I didn't want to put my feet down anywhere. and it was getting quite rocky over there, shelving even, you could say.
They ought to call this a shelving beach.
They ought to call it that, yeah. I don't know why they don't, actually. Oh, wait.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Enjoy that?
Yeah, it's great. Loved it.
Having satisfied our wanderlust, it was back home for tea and buns with Matron before another gym trip before leaving. As I think I mentioned in a previous episode, getting to the gym on the Big Lap has presented one or two challenges. Really very few gyms around the top end, and the best you can hope to manage is the odd sporadic visit every, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, which isn't really much use to anybody. But once we got to Port Douglas, things did look up quite a bit. So there are no chains in Port Douglas, but there's a very good gym called the PD Gym. It is in the main downtown shopping centre underneath Coles. They charge $20 to go and have a workout. Smith machine, good equipment, not too busy, and was actually really worth it. So that's my recommendation for Port Douglas. We moved on to Townsville City, and that's when I signed up with Snap Fitness. They've got setups all the way down the East Coast. It was really easy to sign up online, and the Townsville City gym was excellent. It didn't have a Smith machine, but plenty of other equipment that substituted perfectly well, not busy, really good setup. In Airlie Beach, there are no chains there, so we just went for a spot session at a place called Driven Athletica, which was excellent. Again, $20, that seems to be the going rate. Great machines, loads of equipment, hardly anybody there. It was really good. And now we are in Yeppoon. I've used this a couple of times. Again, Smith machine, great equipment, and again, not very many people. So Snap Fitness is going to be where I'm going to be going for most of the rest of the trip. But now that we're on the eastern seaboard, I think that's the problem sorted. So there we go. And then we were off again. We stayed at the beachside holiday caravan park in Yeppoon, which was, the clue being in the name, on the beach. Flat pitches, 2 minutes from the main drag, and with great amenities, we scored it at 5 out of 5. Aiming on Noosa, we travelled a couple of hours when we filled up. And about 5 minutes later, this happened.
Okay, so we were travelling nicely down the coast. We'd come about 200 kilometres when actually a warning light developed on our instrument display, and having consulted the user manual, that warning light tells us that our fuel filter is clogged. Now we've still got another 400 kilometres to go to Noosa, and I'm not especially keen on driving that far, particularly when the fuel system is under a reasonable amount of pressure because of towing the caravan. So we have made an unscheduled stop here in Gladstone. So we've arrived here. We phoned around a few of the caravan parks, and we found one that had a vacant powered site, and actually it's been pretty good. So it's a Sunday today. Tomorrow we will go into the local Toyota dealership and get our fuel filter changed, and then we will carry on our journey to Noosa. So it's introduced a delay of a day, possibly 2 if they need to part in, I guess. But there we are. It's the best laid plans of mice and men, and we have the pleasure of an unplanned stop in Gladstone.
The next morning, being a Monday, I rolled up unannounced at the local Toyota dealership to see what they could do for us. Okay, so it's 10:40. I'm just driving away from Bill Robertson Toyota in Gladstone. I turfed up there completely unannounced at 8:30 this morning, needing a new fuel filter to be fitted. I presume they had a full day of servicing of cars and so on booked in, but nevertheless they fitted me in. I just had enough time to go around the corner, order some eggs on toast and a long black, consume them, and it was done. So I've gone back, they've charged me $86. That's included a free car wash as well, and we're back on the road. So absolutely top marks to Bill Robertson Toyota in Gladstone. Friend of the show now, and fully endorsed. So that's our running repair done. Despite being unplanned, our stay in Gladstone was very enjoyable. The Boyne Island Caravan Park had capacity to fit us in. Now, they might want to redo their sign, but the site itself was outstanding, with great pictures and good amenities, and at only $50 with power and water, it was a bit of a godsend. 5 stars from us. And then we were back on the road to Noosa. The Gladstone detour had left us with only a day in this tourist magnet, and the weather wasn't kind, as you can see. That didn't seem to deter the army of keen fishermen, although the fish appeared to be avoiding this fella. I can't think why, so we'll reserve judgment on Noosa, another place on our return list. And then we drove a couple of hours down to Brisbane. Okay, we are here in Brisbane, or Brisbane environs, and a little bit of a stock take because we're starting to lose track of where we are. We had a few days in Yeppoon, which is very lovely, great campsite, and actually quite a bit to do. Nice, fairly vibrant community. We then went to travel to Noosa, but we had our problem with our fuel pump. So we had a couple of unplanned days on Boyne Island, which isn't actually an island. It's one of those peninsulas that calls itself an island, near Gladstone, and actually that was really very pleasant. It did mean that we only had 2 nights in Noosa, so we had 1 full day there, and it didn't really allow Noosa to put its best foot forward. Rained a bit, it was quite cloudy, but what we saw we liked. And then yesterday we drove down to Brisbane. We're staying just north of the city on the coast at a place called Sandstone Point, and I have to say the campsite is beautiful. And we are now about to go out to explore the big city. We haven't been anywhere near a settlement of this size since we left Perth, so we've got a day of museums and a whole load of cultural stuff lined up, and we're very much looking forward to it, so we will report back later. Having visited the Museum of Brisbane in the old town hall, we walked down and across the river, heading towards the Queensland Museum on the south bank. Okay, so here we are in downtown Brisbane. We are in the bleak midwinter here, as you can see. I think it's got down to about 22 degrees. We've had a good morning. We've been to the Museum of Brisbane in Brisbane City Hall, which is worth a visit. It's not a huge amount going on there, but it was kind of interesting. But we are now about to enter the Queensland Museum, and by all accounts, in there somewhere is a cannon that was retrieved from the Endeavour Reef, and was one of the cannons that James Cook threw overboard. Once we were inside, the catastrophic realisation dawned that the Endeavour cannon was not in the museum. So we consoled ourselves with an exhibition on the 200 million year history of the saltwater crocodile, now firmly established as a friend of the show, and clearly, in Matilda's pantheon of co-stars, Eastern Australia's answer to the stromatolite. This fine-looking fellow, the one with the big nose, the one on the right, is a monster called Sarcosuchus. He lived around 100 million years ago, grew to a length of 12 metres, and is the leading contender for the largest crocodilian ever to have lived. Interestingly, the osteoderms, those pieces of bone embedded in the skin that we learned about back in Kakadu, all fused together in the Sarcosuchus to create an armour plate that extended across the entire back, as you can see here. The next day found us perusing the shops and cafes of James Street while we considered our latest challenge. One or two things had cropped up back at home, and we judged the simplest way to address them was for one of us to nip back. Having agreed that Sheila, who is far more responsible, would be the one to go, we continued our exploration of the Botanic Gardens and Old Government House, before taking a city cat and retracing our steps downstream. Interesting random factoid: this riverbank, nestling under the stone outcrop, was the place where the first jacaranda tree was imported to Australia from South America. Strange to think that the ubiquitous and beautifully coloured trees that seem quintessentially Australian were once an alien species. And of course, all avid explorers deserve a decent lunch. The next day found us at the Fort Lytton Museum. Today is Sunday, and this afternoon Sheila is catching her plane back to Perth to do a few bits and pieces back at home. But on the way we thought we would come and visit Fort Lytton. This is a 19th century fort initially that was built right on the mouth of the River Brisbane, and was originally built apparently because there were worries about a Russian attack. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but it really came into its own in the Second World War, because Brisbane was the centre of operations for most of what went on in the Southwest Pacific Theatre of War. It was the general headquarters for MacArthur and the Allied war effort. Obviously it was the nerve centre from which the Battle of the Coral Sea was directed, but this whole area was an absolute hive of activity, and so this fort really came into its own in its function to protect and defend the mouth of the Brisbane River, because the city of Brisbane is about 15 kilometres that way up the river. And this place is really interesting. It looks almost Napoleonic in its original layout. Presumably that really goes back to its DNA of having been designed in the 19th century, but there are all kinds of Second World War gun emplacements around, and it made really quite a major contribution to the Australian war effort in World War II. It was eventually decommissioned in 1963. And since then it really has just been maintained as a national monument. But yeah, it's really quite interesting.
So here we are at Lytton Fort, and Mark has talked to you about some of the guns and artillery and buildings and whatnot, but my favourite thing about Fort Lytton is the fact that it still has its functional moat. I've seen a lot of older buildings with the vestiges of moats where they've just let them dry out completely and fill them with rubble or poppies, or just let them be, and it's just so nice to see an actual functional moat, because this is how it would have looked. Mark has eschewed my suggestion that the Queensland government could fill it with salties, but hey, worth considering.
And there we have it, with Sheila safely delivered to Brisbane Airport. Join us next time for our Home Alone special, where I fly solo and take Matilda into deepest, darkest New South Wales.